Hey guys, in this video we're going to make this ube flan cake, or other people they also call it ube custard cake. It's made of soft and fluffy ube chiffon cake topped with creamy leche flan. If you like flan and ube cake, then you're going to love this recipe. As usual, you can find the full written recipe on lilacdiaries.com. This recipe is for a 7-inch cake pan, but you can adjust it depending on the size that you want. And for this recipe, we don't need to grease it or put any parchment paper on it. So first we're going to make the caramel. Heat your pan on low heat, then add white sugar. You can use granulated white sugar or caster sugar, but I'm using caster sugar right now because that's what I have, but it shouldn't have much difference anyway. Just let it melt slowly. It can be tempting to mix it, but don't stir it at all because it will start to clump. Gently swirl the pan to make sure that the sugar melts evenly. Keep swirling and cook it until it turns golden brown and the caramel becomes smooth. There shouldn't be any sugar granules left in the pan. Quickly pour it into your 7-inch cake pan and swirl to coat the base evenly. You need to pour it straight away, like as in now, because the caramel hardens really fast. If that happens, you can reheat it on low heat, but you might risk burning the caramel, so it's better to get it right the first time that you pour it. You gotta be fast, but be careful, the cake pan will get really hot, so you need to wear oven mitts and make sure you don't burn yourself. We'll set this aside for now to cool completely. Next, we're going to prepare the flan. In a large bowl, add egg yolks, condensed milk, evaporated milk, and vanilla extract. Mix this gently and don't whisk too hard to avoid forming too many air bubbles. By the way, we're only using egg yolks. I find that adding egg yolks instead of the whole egg make the flan more rich and creamier. For the evaporated milk, if you don't have it at home, you can use regular milk instead for your flan, but it will be softer and it will be less rich. Strain the mixture to remove bubbles and any small clumps of egg yolks. Make sure you don't skip this step if you really want a silky flan. Pour it slowly over the caramel that we prepared earlier, and we will set this aside for now while we make the ube cake. For the ube chiffon cake, make sure to separate the egg yolks from the egg whites. If you struggle with this and break your egg yolks all the time like I used to do, I'll leave a link here of my video showing a few ways on how you could do this. In a large bowl, whisk the egg yolks with sugar until it looks pale. I'm using a hand mixer because I'm lazy, but you can also use a whisk if you feel like working out today. So how do we know if it's ready? We can look at the color of the mixture. So it turned lighter in color now from dark yellow, and you can also see that it's slightly thicker. So you can stop whipping when you reach this stage. Add vegetable oil or any neutral oil that you have, room temperature milk, ube extract, and a bit of gel food coloring. This is the brand of ube extract that I use. I got it from a Filipino store here in New Zealand. The ube flavor it gives is quite strong, which is really good. I know some brands they just seem too diluted, so yeah, you might want to try this one. The gel food color is optional though. You can leave this out if you don't want to use food coloring, that's totally fine. I just prefer a more intense purple color, so you can always adjust how much you want to add anyway depending on how purple you want it to be. I recommend using gel food coloring here though, not liquid, because it's way more concentrated. You only need a small amount of gel food color so it won't affect the texture of the batter. Sifted cake flour, baking powder, and salt. We're using cake flour, not plain or all-purpose flour, to keep our cake light and airy. If you don't have it at home, don't panic. I've never actually seen cake flour being sold from supermarkets, but all good though, we can just make it at home. So to make 1 cup of cake flour, you need to measure out 2 tablespoons of flour and replace this with 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. Whisk until it's evenly combined and sift this at least twice, and you can multiply this recipe depending on the amount of flour that you need, and that's how you make cake flour. But just take note that for this recipe we only need 3/4 cup of cake flour. So I'm just whisking the batter until it's smooth and lump free. Next, we're going to make the meringue. Make sure that you're using a clean bowl here and there's no egg yolks mixed with your egg whites because the fat will stop them from whipping. It will not be the end of the world, but I don't want you to be wasting your time and effort on making a new batch of egg whites. Beat the egg whites until it's foamy. It should kind of look like soapy water. Then add the cream of tartar. If you don't have cream of tartar though, you can add vinegar instead. You will need 1/2 teaspoon of vinegar and this will just help stabilize the air bubbles if you don't have cream of tartar. Gradually add caster sugar while mixing it until stiff peaks form. You can also use granulated sugar here if that's what you have. I just prefer using caster sugar because it dissolves faster into the egg whites and it just makes the meringue really smooth. Continue beating the batter until stiff peaks form. It should be glossy and it should be able to hold its shape when you lift the whisk. Slightly droopy tips is fine. When you turn your bowl upside down, your meringue shouldn't fall at all. Don't overbeat the meringue or it can clump and it won't fold in smoothly into the wet batter. If it looks grainy like this, you might have overbeat your egg whites. I mean, it's not the end of the world as well, but it will just be harder to mix into the ube batter and the cake might end up being less fluffy than it should be. Anyways, you should be able to avoid this by stopping to whip once it reaches stiff peaks. Now we're going to grab the ube batter and we're going to fold in the meringue in 3 additions. So add about 1/3 of the meringue and fold it into the batter. Be gentle, do this using your spatula and make sure that you don't stir the batter or it will deflate the air bubbles. We're adding a bit first to loosen the ube batter, then add the rest in 2 batches. So every time I add a batch of meringue, I usually fold it around 15 to 20 times and that should be enough to mix it evenly. Make sure that you're scraping at the bottom to make sure that you mix everything as well as the sides. As you can see, there's no more streaks of meringue in this batter and it looks pretty even to me, so this is good to go. I'm using a spoon to carefully place it on top. Don't worry if it gets mixed a little bit into the flan. When it bakes, the flan and the ube cake will just separate into their own layers. They'll know what to do. Once you've added all of it, just use your spatula to smooth the top of the cake. We're going to cook this in a water bath to make the temperature more even while it's baking, and this will prevent the cake from cracking and forming a domed top. So place the cake pan in a deep tray like this and fill it with hot water about 2 centimeters deep. Carefully transfer it into a preheated oven and bake it for 70 to 80 minutes. So if you're using a fan forced oven like me, bake it at 140 degrees Celsius. Or if you're using a conventional oven, then bake it at a higher temperature at 160 degrees Celsius. Around halfway through the baking time, so around 30 to 35 minutes, cover the pan loosely with foil to prevent the top from browning too much. To check if the cake is done, insert a toothpick in the middle and if it comes out clean, then it's ready. And there's no need to invert it yet. Once it's completely cool, cover the pan with foil. You can just reuse the one that we used earlier to cover it in the oven, or you can use a plastic wrap instead. We're only covering it loosely, so no need to wrap it too tight. We'll leave it in the fridge for at least 2 hours or overnight, and this will just allow the flan and ube layers to fully firm up, and it will also make the unmolding much safer without the risk of breaking the flan. Hey guys, so I left the flan overnight and now it's time to unmold it. I'm just going to remove the foil and we will carefully run a thin knife around the edge of the cake to loosen it a bit. Place a serving plate on top, then carefully invert the cake onto the plate so that the flan is on top now like this. Be careful, the caramel might go all over the place if you move it too much. Now it's time to try it, and just look at that. The ube chiffon came out soft and the flan is rich and creamy. There's quite a bit of caramel dripping down, but trust me, the sweetness of this cake is just perfect. It's not too sweet, which is actually bad because I could eat so much and not feel a sugar rush. Let me know in the comments what ube dessert you want to see next. And if you enjoyed this recipe, please like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Lilac Diaries for more updates. See you in the next video. Bye!